Are you annoyed by your occupation? Welcome to the mini show. This is Minutes to Momentum, and today I'm going to talk to Scott Barlow about your career. Welcome to Minutes to Momentum. This is the sideshow to the overwhelmed brain. Put it on every now and then midweek when I can't fit content in on the weekend episode. I just make another episode. I just put it in there midweek. To anyone that's subscribed to the show, you're the one who gets this. If you're not subscribed, you probably aren't hearing this now. Why aren't you subscribed? Because sometimes I'll come out with a show that's not on Sunday, and this is one of those days. So anyway, today I want to talk about your career. And this is one of those gaps in the overwhelmed brain. I can talk about emotional stuff all day long. I can help you increase your emotional intelligence and get you to a place of learning and healing and growing and evolving. But what can I do about the job that you have, the career that you're in, the work that you're doing? That's something I could probably, coach you one-on-one with, but it's not my main strength and it's not my main focus. And that's why I brought Scott Barlow with Happen to Your Career on the show today, because I wanted to talk to him about this gap and what people can do when it comes to their own career. I mean, I even thought about my career now. Like, what is my career? I'm a personal empowerment coach, but I'm also an author. I'm also a podcaster. And all these things are floating around in my head that I have this multifaceted career and passion. And I don't know, it's a lifestyle that I've chosen to take on. But how did I get here? Why does this seem to fit me perfectly? Well, it's because there are certain strengths that I have that allow me to fit into a position like this and be able to teach comfortably from a position like this. But to tell you the formula, like how did I know to end up here? I couldn't do it. I mean, I know the general personality characteristics and things like that. But what is the formula to help you end up in a career that is perfect for you? That's what Scott knows. That's what he's studied. He's worked with, I think, thousands of clients now. I think he says this in the interview. This was recorded a couple days ago, but I'm going to play it for you in a moment. But what I want you to do before the interview starts is go to happentoyourcareer.com. That's 4 words, happentoyourcareer.com/brain, and get the strengths guide. And it's going to outline what your strengths are and how to move towards a career in life that fits your strengths. I mean, you have to know these things so you can find the job that fits you perfectly. Now, if you are already completely satisfied in what you do, maybe this show isn't for you, maybe it is, but even if you're not looking for work, it was still a great conversation that we had, and we talk about some of the psychological aspects of keeping work, finding work, and things like that. So I think you're going to enjoy this show anyway, but I still want you to go to happentoyourcareer.com/brain, download the free strengths guide, and he has other things going on there too. I think you can get a mini class. I know tomorrow he has a webinar. I want you to go to that webinar. If you go to happentoyourcareer.com/brain-webinar, you can sign up for his webinar as well. The webinar teaches, let me pull it up here. The webinar is going to teach you the 3 most important steps to a career that you love while increasing your salary. So I won't waste any more of your time. Just go to happentoyourcareer.com/brain or happentoyourcareer.com/brain-webinar. I highly recommend it if you have any inkling of changing careers or finding work. Check it out. He's got a lot to offer. At least download the Strengths Guide. And thanks for joining us today. I'm going to play the conversation now. Here you go. I'll come back when it's over and say goodbye. Talk to you soon. With you again. We haven't talked since April. I know that we haven't talked since April because in Skype it's nice enough to tell you the last date you talked. You can see the message appear right before it. It says hey, Mr. Coliani, you ready to talk? And that was like April of 2016. So I was like, oh, that's the last time we talked. That's a good way to keep records.
That is a good way. It's like a little bit of CRM software built right into unintentionally.
A data tracking and status there. So I haven't talked to you since then. And for anyone listening, his name is Scott Barlow. He's the founder and CEO of Happen to Your Career. I like to call him a career mentor or something like that. But really, he helps you find, and this is what I'm going to read off your website, Scott. He helps you find and do work that is unapologetically you. Now, I don't think I saw that last year, so I want you to explain to me what finding and doing work that is unapologetically you. What does that mean?
You know, this has been an ongoing work in progress, quite frankly, since the very, very beginning. And actually, you know, one of the very first conversations you and I had together, we spent the bulk of it. It was probably a good hour-long conversation, because they always are when we talk, it seems like. And probably 30 to 40 minutes of that was talking about the process of going from what almost all of us do on a regular basis, where we think that we have to please other people, or we think we have to play drastically different roles that feel very, very, very extra very for emphasis, not ourselves, and very grating, going against the grain, and very much very stressful often goes along with that. And one of our goals is very much to help people live lives that are more who they actually are, and bringing out some of the things and more of the things that they are very good at, naturally gifted at, and using what we call their signature strengths, which really, you know, we didn't come up with that name, but we came up with our own definition for it, which is really just those experiences and skills and talents and knowledge sets and the way that you're wired and personality traits, kind of all this rolled together and pulling out the pieces that you are the best at because of the combination of these things. And what we've learned and validated through research, you've probably heard the term 1 in a million, right? Everybody's heard the term 1 in a million. Yep. Well, it turns out it's more like about 1 in about 230 to 240 people in the world that actually have the same combination of skill sets and strengths and everything like that we're talking about here. So everyone is really actually truly unique based on the stats. Like if you just go to just the math and the research, but what we help people do is actually pull more of that out so that they can live their lives in a very much not stress-free way, because I don't think things that you're doing that are worthwhile are stress-free. But I do believe very strongly that it should be aligned with more of who you are, because the more time you spend living that's unapologetically you, quite frankly, the more fun you have, the happier you are, and everything else. See, so that's what we call it.
This is why I love having you on. This is why I love what you do, and why you're the only guest that has returned, 3 or 4 times now? Because
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Because you're out there reaching into the world saying, be yourself. And let me help you be yourself. And let me help you find work that can help you be yourself, or at least be yourself at work. Like, you hit the nail on the head when you said, unapologetically you is a great way to put it. It's like, be authentic and honor who you are. This is how I would say it. Honor who you are at the deepest core of that, however that's defined for you. And it just, it reminds me of, I had this dream. It was weird. I don't know why I had this dream, but maybe it was because
I can't wait to hear about this.
I had this dream last night, and I'm thinking I had it because I realized I'm going to talk to you about work. So last night I had this dream about a job that I had in 1993 and 4. And I went back to that place. It was in Naples, Florida. And I don't know why I was there, but the business still existed in my dream. And all these people from high school were there. Not all of them, but, the people that were sitting in the positions that were there before weren't there anymore, except a couple. And then people that I used to know in high school that I liked were there. And suddenly I felt like at home at this old job that I was at. And just walking in made me feel comfortable. And it's funny because that's one of the jobs that I had in my life that I felt completely comfortable doing what I was doing and loved going to work. And I mean, I love what I do now, but back then when I was in my early 20s, that's like the only job that really fit me at the time. However, at that time, I was such, and you've probably dealt with this with clients, I was such a people pleaser. I wanted to make sure everyone was happy, and people pleasers tend to forego their own needs.
Yes.
So that would be me. So I would put on the fake smile when I was upset. If something made me angry, I would just deny it. And I just started getting burnt out. And then by year 4 of being in that job, I started in 91, I think. So by 94, 95, I was like, I don't think I can take this anymore. I can't take this job. But it wasn't the job itself. It was me choosing not to honor myself and just be myself and be transparent. Do you find that clients that you work with have this going on? Is this a limitation that you find?
Yeah, and I think limitation is the best word for it. Short answer is yes, absolutely. And I think we all do to varying degrees. I don't think that ever really truly goes away unless we completely have zero empathy and just really truly don't care about other people. Then I don't think this ever really actually goes away. But I think you learn more to honor yourself, and not that you don't care about other people, but you don't care as it pertains to where it infringes upon honoring yourself, if that makes any kind of sense.
Okay. So, well,
and I think you get better at that.
I think you've just mentioned some of the population that are sociopathic and don't have empathy. But you're right.
They're fine. They're like,
they're fine.
Screw you, world.
I'm just going to do what I do, and I don't care who I bowl over. But, absolutely. And, when you work with people like that, I mean, do you find that those limitations are really based on a set of fears that they've carried with them?
Yeah. And I think those fears come from a lot of different places. What I've seen over the years, and starting way back when working in HR, I worked in HR in a variety of different roles all over the place, senior and junior and blah, 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 all those roles, and started seeing that there at first as people were moving into the companies and then out of the companies, and seeing what happens as they come in all excited and what they come in, and even whether or not which people are willing to come in and negotiate and which people aren't. That was very, very telling too. I didn't realize it when I first started seeing that. And,
what, like salary or things
salary
like that?
Or benefits or anything else. As near as I can tell, the best evidence I can find in, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it's the best data that I have. Only 13% of the population ever actually asks for any kind of salary increase or raise or negotiates or anything else with their salary.
Yeah, I was one of the 87% for a long time that did not ask. Yep.
But I think that's telling of much more so than just that. I think it is very telling of a lot of the limitations that we have either put on ourselves or have happened through society, how we were raised, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just symptomatic of broader things. So short answer is yes. Yes, we experience that quite a bit. In fact, some of the most common ways that we see it is people that come in and they come to us because they really actually want something more in their role. They want to live a life that has greater meaning or purpose, or is actually enjoyable when they get up in the morning and they're excited to be able to go to work, versus, at Sunday night living in the fear of the next day. And, for me, when I was doing that, I was staying up watching reruns of HGTV. And yes, unfortunately, maybe you watch something better than HGTV. I don't know, but
is that a TV show? Is that a TV show?
HGTV is Home and Garden Network.
Oh, HGTV. I thought you were saying HD. Like, I watch reruns of high definition television. I was like, really? Oh, HG. Got it.
Yeah, HGTV. And that was it for me. But they come in and they're in this place and they don't actually see how it's possible to do it any differently. based on their framework and understanding of the world and how work works and how careers work.
To do their job in the sense of, I mean, we're talking about fears. Is that what you meant? Like,
yeah,
got it.
Yeah. So then it becomes this case of, I am afraid to leave what I have. I'm afraid to even look. I'm afraid to even try in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I'm afraid in the case of negotiation, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose that opportunity. I've never, ever seen somebody who has lost a job offer because they tried to negotiate. I've seen them lose job offers for other stupid reasons, but never because they tried to come in and say, hey, what I was really looking for was this. What can we do about this? But people are afraid of that being pulled away from them and the rug being pulled out from under them. So they never even do it, never even try.
I think that's so important to really embrace the idea that if you want something more or even need something more from the career or the job that you have now, that actually asking for it it shouldn't be a scary step. It should be, I should look at my current situation and go, I might need to negotiate for more. I might need to ask for more. However, it's also a reality that some bosses are jerks. Oh, you want more? Well, I'll just go hire someone else. I mean, I'm sure that can happen too.
I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah.
It happens less often than what people think.
I absolutely agree. In fact, I've tested that. I've actually stood up, and I've told this story in several episodes. I've stood up to my bosses before. And I remember the first time doing it thinking, oh crap, I'm going to lose my job. Because
here we go.
I know. And I was like, and I was talking about another employee, and I was defending the other employee, saying, you're not here to see what this guy goes through, so you really have no right to say that. And I was like, whoa, I can't believe what I just said to my boss. And boy, I tell you what, they looked at me with admiration and respect after that, instead of saying, how dare you speak to us like that? Because, a lot of managers and bosses and presidents of companies, they want to hear feedback. They want to know this stuff. And I didn't realize that, because they're just trying to figure out how to do the best they can in their position too. So in that instance, that was me giving them feedback about an employee, saying, you're wrong about that. And it worked out. And in the instances of, I was just talking about that job, that dream I had. When I left that job, I remember when I walked into, they said, okay, you need to go see the general manager before you finally leave. And so I walked in, and the first question out of his mouth was, is there anything that we can do to make you stay? And I was like shocked to hear this, because for the first time I realized, oh my God, I could have asked for a raise. I could have asked for anything previously, because they actually enjoyed having me there, and they actually appreciated my services. And if I had just gone in and asked, I'm sick of carrying this pager 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Can I get weekends off? If I even asked for that, would it have happened? But I never did. The fears kept me limited. And is that something that you help people work through or work around, or how does that
work?
Mm-hmm. I mean, not the process, but is that something that you can help people get beyond, or is it a lot deeper than that?
I think that it is deeper than that. And we try and look at it very holistically. So we operate from, well, you were talking a little bit about, hey, when you ask for it, you're much more likely to get it, versus when you don't ask for it, you're not at all. You have a 0% chance almost to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So we operate from the standpoint, the very simple logic of, when you know what you want and you ask for what you want, then very often, surprisingly often, you get what you want. Now, here's the biggest problem. A lot of people feel like it is those fears that stop people from asking for what you want. And that's true. And there's a percentage of people that get lost up in there. But what we see more often than that is people don't know what it is that they want. And that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, if I ask the average person, hey, Hey, Paul, what do you want? What is it that you want? First of all, that's a pretty complex question. It's like,
very broad.
Like for dinner, or
right.
You mean tomorrow for
right.
What do you mean? But in general, when we talk about breaking life into different chunks, it gets a little bit more manageable when you're talking about like career, finances, pick any area for life, relationships. Then it starts to get a little bit easier in terms of what you want. But it's still extraordinarily hard to be able to articulate that, because most of us find that we operate from that fear-based mentality, which is, I know what I don't want, and I want to run away from that.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of the values exercise that I do, and you probably have some sort of similar exercise that you do with your clients, where you take an area of life, work and career, for example, and I ask the question, what's important to you about, a job or a career? And, some of you might say, well, I have to have weekends off, and I need my boss to respect me, and, so on and so on and so on. There's all these things that are important to them about a career. And I've run into clients, my own coaching clients, that will try this values exercise, and they see that question and they immediately freeze, and they don't know how to answer it, because
that is the thing. That is it. Yeah. Yes. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
yes.
Yeah,
that is it. You're right.
They just freeze. So I'm like, what do you mean? What's important to you about a career? And all these things come to their mind, but they're not sure. And so I'm like, I just told a client this yesterday. I'm like, okay, if that's overwhelming you, I mean, first of all, wow, that's overwhelming you, then no wonder, what I call you're causing self-sabotage in your life. You're getting what you don't want in life, like you were saying, or trying to avoid what you don't want in life. And I was like, okay, don't think of everything. Just put down 3 things that you want. That's it. 3 things. And she goes, oh, I can handle that. I'm like, so many people just blow it up, way up, so they can't handle it. It's like an immediate freeze. So I'm curious by what you said about, yes, that's it. So you run into that same freezing mentality is what you're saying.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of what we do to help people get on the path to living much more unapologetically as themselves, especially in their careers, is going way back to this question of what do you want, and then helping break it down into manageable pieces so that they can actually answer that for themselves. And I feel like that's a large portion of what we do. And part of that is eliminating blockages along the way, and mental barriers and limitations, and removing those, or helping them systematically remove those. And the other part of it is helping to eat the elephant one bite at a time. I was looking for a better analogy, but that's the one that came out.
We talked about it last time. That was good.
Yeah.
You're like, I still haven't found a better analogy than that, but it's perfect because you're explaining the process is just massive, but you start with one bite and then the next. I assume that's where you're going with that.
That's exactly where I'm going with that. So there's a lot of different ways that we do that, because everybody has different cognitive styles, and everybody learns differently. Everybody internalizes things a number of different ways. So we don't just have one way to attack this, if you will. Instead, we have a variety of different ways, and we try to target what really works the best. But let me give you an example here, where as we're breaking it down, we had one person that we were working with, and he was really, really, really intent on. Well, he was let's be honest. He was in the place where he was trying to run from the other things that didn't work in the past. Yeah. So he had a number of jobs, really enjoyed some pieces of them, but didn't find them very fulfilling. Ultimately saved up enough money just to quit to figure this out. So that was unusual. Most people aren't in that place, but he did this thing, quit, and he was just so frustrated with it all that's what it came to for him. He's like, I'm gonna save up enough money and not spend anything for a couple of months so that I can take a few months off and get this figured out. That's how frustrated he was.
Okay, well,
with it, like, more power to you.
Yeah, do it.
So he was at the point where, look, I hate going into the office, so I have to not go into the office. I have to do remote work. And he's very, 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 very stuck on that.
Okay.
But he wasn't looking at all the other pieces. I mean, he was basically running from that one section, and that was overwhelming him. And everything else, he really just didn't know how to attack it, how to break it down. And what we found after we started going through each piece of what he really enjoyed, we had him literally go through some of his past jobs. And that's one of the places we started. This is a very, very easy exercise for people to do. You can pull out a piece of paper and do this right now. But it's one of my favorite ones because I can describe it and people can do it in a few minutes in some cases, where they can literally pull out that piece of paper, list on there all of their jobs, volunteer opportunities, projects that they've worked on, whatever it happens to be, and then start going through and listing two things. Thing number one is what in each of those roles they enjoyed. Even if it's the smallest thing.
Yeah,
some people might be looking at them grumbling and be like, I didn't like anything about that job. Oh, couldn't. But there's probably something. I mean, you like the paycheck at least.
Right.
So if not the paycheck, then what? And the other thing that you can list out on there under each one of these is, what did you find that you were better at than at the average person in that role? And what has a tendency to happen, and again, this is just one way to get at this and take the elephant one bite at a time, is you start to notice patterns. After you get this all listed down, you start to notice some of these patterns. After we went through and did this type of exercise and a number of other things with him, we started to notice the same patterns. This guy absolutely loves to help people in a very specific way. Now, let's be honest. Everybody likes helping people. And that's one of the things that researchers have found. And I get emails literally every single day where like, if only I was helping people with my job. Yes, wow. Everybody likes to help people. That's a real thing. Like that is, if you don't have that in your job, or you can't understand how you're helping people or what you're doing is contributing to helping people, then it's likely not going to make you happy for any period of time. That's what researchers have proven again and again. So obviously there was the helping people component, but in addition to that, it was a very specific type of helping people for him. We found that he really loved people coming to him, relying on him. Then from there, him helping them and assisting them with a problem where he had to actually go explore and find the answer, where he couldn't come up with the answer right away, but he actually had to go and explore, whether for him this sometimes meant actually looking things up or talking to other people or engaging in a few different ways that he was pretty good at. But he had to go through that exploration process for it to be enjoyable for him.
It was like part of the challenge was part of the draw.
Yeah. And so many people are like, oh, if only I had a job that was challenging. Right. And that's true for everybody too. And engaging work is one of those things that, again, research has proven has to be there, has to happen. And there's a number of things that go into engaging work. But yeah, that challenge has to be there. But for him, it was a very specific type of challenge. And likely it is for everyone else too.
Yeah.
And the key is, what is the context surrounding that? What are the things that make that challenge exciting and great for you and that you're particularly good at, where you get to use your strengths, your personality, the stuff that's essentially fun for you. Maybe it's not stress-free, but the stuff that's essentially fun for you. And that's where we find a lot of the good stuff. And we found those patterns again and again and again for him. So that's just one example of how that happens.
That's a great example. And I'm thinking, that flashback, I keep bringing back that same job I dreamed about. And first thing that comes to mind is what did I like about it? And one of the things I liked about it is that the buck never stopped with me. I was like in the middle between the clients calling, and I could try to help them, but I never had to be the person that solved the problem. I could just go, can't help you, let me pass you on. And that was such a freeing feeling.
It's like being grandpa at work or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here's the kid with the smelly diapers. Like,
you can have
back to the parents.
Yep.
Voila.
You have your kid back now. Exactly. And then I think of what was I better at? And I was better at all the technology at this company. So I eventually became the technical manager. So it seemed, I think, as you're talking about that, it reminds me of that's probably why I like that job so much, is because it was filling those things that I really appreciated, the stuff I liked, the stuff I was better at, and I rose in the ranks in that. And then when I got out of the technical side of it, that's when I really started getting burnt out. So I actually strayed away from the parts of the job that I really enjoyed. Do you find that people will do that? They'll be in a position and then they'll either promote or move to another department, and then suddenly their job isn't the same anymore and they don't appreciate it, they don't like it, even if they're getting more money. You ever get that?
Yeah, this is really interesting, and I'd love to ask your opinion on this a little bit too. But one of the things that I observe again and again is this phenomenon where I was in a situation in life that I enjoyed, and then it's become a progressive downslope for one reason or often many different reasons, where I now have not necessarily bottomed out, but I'm much, much lower on the enjoyment day to day. And finally, I get frustrated enough to do something about it. And then I look back towards that time where I perceived that I was happy, often forgetting about all the other stuff that went along with it and why I left in the first place. But I look back at that sometimes misperceived golden moment. And then we get people that come to us and like, how do you get me back to the time when I was a beekeeper? Not really, but like whatever the thing was.
Now I really
love being an operations manager.
Yeah, now I'm a manager and I manage all these people and I don't even touch the bees anymore. I don't know. Is that what you're talking about? Something like that?
Yeah, and that's one way that it happens. Other ways is they get laid off or they get propelled to a other different situation, and often it's not of their own causation. And because it's not their own choice, I see that they still perceive that as the golden moment. So they will come to us and be like, can you take me back to operations? I must get back to operations. And then we talk to them a little bit and it's like, well, actually you're terribly suited for operations, but it's a number of other things that really made it this golden moment. And they've attached it to these sometimes artificial pieces. So I'm curious because I don't know. I'm assuming that happens in a lot of other areas of life too.
Yes.
But I'm curious where you've seen that as well.
Absolutely. I've seen that in, let's see, I had a client many, many years ago that she had a relationship when she was like a teenager. And now she's in her 40s or 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's thinking nothing ever matched that relationship ever again. That was the only time I've truly felt love and supported and we were best friends and that ended. And so absolutely, I mean, that's a deep subject we could get into, but that happens in many areas of life. And I think people, like you said, they label the event as that golden moment and they go, that event needs to happen again. When it's not about the event is the trigger, the stimulus for how you felt inside at the time. And it's just like when I was going through a divorce, I had all this pain come up and I wanted my wife back and I couldn't get her back. And one night, because I'm a thinker, all these things come to my head.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, what if someone else came along who was prettier, smarter, made me laugh just the same, if not more, made me feel good in all kinds of ways, if not better? What if this other person came along and did everything that my wife could do, but even better? Would I still care so much about losing my wife? Would it hurt as much if this other person came along and did all the same things that she did, but even better? And I went, whoa, that's a good way to think about it. And suddenly I started healing, knowing that I was only attached to how I felt when I was with my wife. And not all of it was good. I was only attached to the good stuff that I liked. But that helped me understand that it's not the event, it's not the person or the people that you're with, it's the way you want to feel. So how can I get that feeling back? And I think your process that you were talking about is a great first step. You look back, and in this case, you could see all the relationships that you were in, and you go, well, what did I like about those relationships? And if we were going to apply your process to this, and then the second would be like, well, what did I mean, this will be an interesting question. What did I do better? What did I do better? Then how would you apply that? Then her other boyfriends, or what did I, I mean, how can you apply it? But I don't know. I don't know if that particular works, but I think with career it does. I think when you look at that and you go, So if I'm not a beekeeper, but I can have the same exact feelings I had when I was a beekeeper, would I be okay with the job?
If I can still get the honey, but not be a beekeeper,
right?
Now we're talking.
Right.
So, okay. So I think we're developing a brand new analogy that I'll take and run with probably for many years here. But I think what we do is we help you find the prettier, smarter, career, sexier career that
that's good. I mean,
that is a much, much better fit.
Well, I like this, Scott, because I was thinking about my career today. Today, my career as a personal empowerment coach, you can add author, you can add podcaster, you can add even musician. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that I do. But for the most part, it's the overwhelmed brain. And I think I spend, 90% of my time in my career. 90% of my life. Even when I'm at home with my personal life, with my girlfriend, and we're watching a movie, I'm still checking the overwhelmed brain emails. And I'm like, I spend so much time in my career, 90%. So I better damn well like it. And it better damn well fit me. And I better be excited about it, and because it's basically a nonstop thing for me. And I think that's what happens when you pursue your own thing. Whatever you're doing, like a lot of self-employed people will do this. They will just dive in more. I mean, I never gave in like 90% of my time to any other career in my life. I was just happy to walk away at night. I think when you feel comfortable enough to be kind of enmeshed in your career, maybe not 90% like I am, but enough where it doesn't feel like you need a break from it, I think that's a great place to be. Is that kind of where you like to go with that? It's like you find a career that people just really enjoy. Like you said, they're just so jazzed to get up in the morning for. And I mean, is that what you find that, like the successful clients that you've had, is that what really happens to them?
So short answer is yes. And I would reframe it just slightly.
Do it.
Not just I've found through personal experience and through working with, I realized actually this morning as I was talking, we were counting up, we were going to put something on a info page someplace, and it was how many clients we worked with and blah, 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 all that. And I realized now we've actually worked with literally thousands of people, which blows me away.
Excellent.
But in doing that, plus taking a look at research, one of the things that we've seen time and again is there are these couple of things that you have to have in order to unleash that serious want and that serious level of happiness, fulfillment, whatever you want to call it, that thing where you're actually excited and have this need and want to spend your time in that way, where it's aligned enough with what you want to where that is a good thing and that is a good way to be spending your time for you. Just like you're talking about where, and I'm very much the same way. I'm immersed in this. This is not just my baby. I really, really enjoy what it is that I get to do on a daily basis, both the activity and what we stand for, et cetera, et cetera. But I've had that in other jobs too. And those couple of things that are basics for everybody are some of the things that we mentioned before. You have to have engaging work, which is a workplace or a set of people or type of work that offers feedback to you, so you know how you're doing. You have to have things in place where you are able to have clarity in what it is that that your tasks are, or your activities, or your projects, or anything else. You have to have some level of clarity, and those are some of the pieces of engaging work. There's a number of others too, but then you also have to, in addition to engaging work, you have to be able to help people, like we established earlier, right? So that's a thing, and then on top of that, you also have to have some of your basic needs met. And when I say basic needs, this varies a little bit for everybody, but they pretty consistently fall around. You have to be, having your bills paid, and really it kind of goes into the category of receiving pay that you believe is fair for what you do.
Yeah.
And there's some other pieces too, in terms of if you have an extraordinarily long commute, then you're probably pretty less likely to be happy, and that can fall under basic needs. But so you've got all of those types of pieces. And then in addition to that, there are the things that vary from person to person. And the things that vary from person to person are those values that you're mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
What's important to you, or what's most important to you. A lot of times, if people aren't freezing when you ask them what's important to you, then they get the opposite thing. It's like, well, everything's important to me. Well, what's most important?
Right. That's where the overwhelm starts.
Yeah, absolutely. So that in each area of your life.
Yeah.
And the other piece of that is, what are you good at? What are you great at? What do you have the potential to be great at in terms of those strengths? And those last two, what you value and what you're great at or have the potential to be great at, those signature strengths that we talked about earlier, those are the ones that are drastically different from person to person. But the other things we mentioned earlier go for everybody. But people don't realize it and they forget.
Yeah. Oh, I'd imagine. I think about my whole career, and I mean, I don't think I've ever lasted. I think I've told you this before. I don't think I've ever lasted more than 4 years at a job, and
yeah,
I really think it's because of the stuff we talked about today. I think when I look back and go, at what point, and you were asking about this earlier, or we were talking about it.
Yeah.
At what point did I start to get burnt out, and why was that, and what caused that, and for me, it was always a matter of just not being myself. And when you're not yourself, you get burnt out trying to be someone else, trying to be someone that you think they want to see. That's a question that I wanted to ask you about when it comes to like job interviews. Let me ask you your opinion or your professional suggestion here. When you go into a job interview, is it, because I have my own thoughts on this, is it better to be your complete authentic self, or do you put up some sort of a professional, I mean, you're not going to say, hey, what's up? And I mean, you might.
I say, hey, what's up?
Okay, so that's what I'm asking.
That's not the right thing for everybody.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. And I mean, if you spend most of your time in a street gang and then go into a job interview dressed like your total authentic self, that's what I'm wondering. Is that the person you should show up as your authentic self? Because the reason I ask that is because when you do start working somewhere, then you have to be the person you showed up as in the interview, because otherwise, what have you done? I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I bet you know some of my thoughts on this just from our past conversations and getting to know each other over the years and stuff. But I love this topic because there's so much crappy advice out there on this.
Yes,
is what I found. So
yes,
this is a nice meaty one to dig into.
Good.
So my short answer, I'll give you the short answer, then I'll give you some of the reasons behind it.
Great.
My short answer is I want you to represent the best authentic versions of yourself, but also recognize that when you are showing up to a job interview, when you are expecting to get a job in the first place, you're essentially selling a portion of your time. Like that is literally what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about in terms of like prostitution or anything like that, but I do think
my brain didn't go there, but you.
Well, here's where it will in the next part. But I do think that if you do it in a way that is completely inauthentic, then it can feel a little bit like selling yourself in a very wrong way.
Got it.
No, I guess
that makes sense.
Maybe not everybody's brains had to go there.
That's all right. But, that makes more sense now, though.
Yeah. So the short answer is recognize that when you show up, you're going to be selling a piece of yourself and your time and everything like that. So here's what I actually recommend. Here's the piece that most people don't realize. When we are helping somebody work through this type of process and ultimately identify what is going to make them happier day to day, and we've identified some of the things that are most important to them, if we find that the companies and the people that they work with and the people that they work for have drastically different values in place, and there's a huge disparity between what's important to you and what's important to the company you're working for, then that's not going to make you happy. in any sense of the word. And I think that's pretty obvious.
Totally.
So really obvious piece after I say it, but that nobody thinks about. So then what we do is we spend a huge portion of time not only helping you understand what you value and what you value most, but then we align those companies and which companies you're going after and which people and which areas you're going after with those values before you ever start to search in the first place.
Oh, so you learn like mission statements and values and things like that of different companies, and then you're able to help align. That's a good idea. That's a great concept.
And it's not always about the mission statement because sometimes, most companies are in some kind of state of evolution. So the mission statement is usually living ahead of where they're actually at.
Yeah, true.
But, recognizing and being conscious of what their culture is and what it is now versus where it's going, all of those things I think are actually really important. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that you go read tons of mission statements out there or whatever else. But what I am suggesting is that it's important to recognize that when you're in alignment, the interview is a whole bunch easier too, because you show up and they're like, wow, this person seems like they're a really good fit. It's so weird. They're so much better than all the other candidates.
That's great. That's great. I mean, what you just said is great advice. I mean, as far as being in alignment with the culture, that's great.
And it just makes all of those other getting the job pieces a whole bunch easier. All of a sudden, you have this huge competitive advantage, and they can't place their finger on why you feel like such a great fit. And then they'll go, and I've seen this again and again and again with our clients, and I've done this myself many times over the years, where they end up hiring you over somebody else who has much more experience, and then they end up justifying it ultimately because they like you more. But that's not what they're going to tell everybody, because that doesn't go very well for a variety of reasons. Yeah. But that's what actually happens. You end up getting the job, and then the other person gets a call, and they're like, well, we hired a candidate who is just a better fit.
Yes. You just identified one of my jobs, 2008 or 9, when I worked for a personal growth company. That's exactly what happened. I went in, interviewed, was totally just relaxed. And this is golden information, Scott, because I didn't even realize why I fit so well at that company and felt so comfortable being myself. It's because we all had the same values and the same.
And now you run a self-development company.
And now I run a self-development company. So it's like I walked in and I did the interview, and they're asking me all these questions like, do you know how to code in HTML? Do you know Google Analytics? I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm thinking I'm going to walk out of here and they're going to think I'm an idiot. And I really thought that I'm never going to hear from them again, or the call would be, sorry, we chose this computer programmer with 20 years experience over you. I thought that was going to happen. And they called me and they said, we just, and they actually did tell me, we just liked you more. We got along with you more. And you just painted the bigger picture of, well, no wonder we're all in alignment then. And I can see that totally, because when you work side by side, if you're in that kind of position next to people 8 to 10 hours a day, they're going to want to be with people with similar values and similar goals and missions for their own life. And so I think that's an excellent way to just kind of wrap this up and what we're talking about, and everything that you just explained very eloquently about being your unapologetic self, being unapologetically you. It's right in alignment with what I teach here, being authentic, honoring your personal boundaries and things like that. I think it's the way the world should work, and more people that teach this stuff, you, me, and do this stuff, the clients that you're helping, the clients that I'm helping, the listeners of this show and your show, when they learn that all you need is to be in alignment with who you are and in alignment with the people that you're with. It's kind of like that Jim Rohn quote, you're the average of the 5 people that you are with most, or something like that. Yeah. You find out that your life goes so much easier. And if you're in a career that you're in alignment with, that the culture matches, how much better can it get? And I look at that and go, yeah, but what if it's not paying? I mean, somebody might say this. What if it's not paying enough money? And I'm thinking, but what if you're happy? What if you feel fulfilled?
Here's an interesting thing, though. Out of all of our students and clients, we keep stats on this stuff for a variety of reasons. One, we just know when we get attached to them and we want to know how they're doing and everything like that, but also for marketing reasons and a variety of other things too. But we have realized that since we've started, every single person, save 2 people, when they have followed this type of process, they actually get paid more. Not joking. And those 2 people that did get paid less, one of them actually works less, and she actually gets paid more if you equate it into a $1 per time spent, $1 per hour type rate. And she has a higher level role to go with it. So she's working less and ultimately getting paid more for the time she's spending. And then the other person, we set it up so that he actually within 3 months could get a promotion. We negotiated that in. So that's the weird, not intuitive part is when you do this stuff. I don't know. That's how it's worked out.
No, I totally get that. And we were talking about how it equates to the stuff I teach and who I talk to. And in the sense of relationships, we think that one relationship was that golden time in my life and I'll never have that again. And then you find someone that turns all that around and you're like, wow. Yeah. Because you're not the same person. You've changed over the years. You just want those feelings again. But it sounds like, exactly what you're talking about is that you end up with a career that it was almost you're thinking out of the box in a way. Like you can't think about what you're going to get unless you go through some sort of self-development process to get a job or a career that suddenly fits you perfectly. And you're like, wow, this is even better than that job I had in 1998 or something like that. So I totally get that. And that's how I relate to it with relationships. Is that kind of what you're saying as well?
Yeah. And I love that comparison technique. I don't even know what that's called. There's probably a name for that. I use that all the time in coaching too. But it's like, well, okay, let's imagine for a minute. What if you could have you said, prettier, smarter, whatever version, and she's buying you a Ferrari to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how about then? Would that be better?
How could you say anything but no? Because people will go, yes, but it's not whatever her name is or his name is. It's not Bill. It's not Mary. But you feel even better. And this person's even this and this and this and this. And as long as they're just not stuck on that label and they realize, I want to feel those things again, boy, your world just opens up. So, Scott, I'm going to wrap this up because we're getting close to the end. I want you to, first of all, thank you for your time. Getting time with you is, it's a challenge for me because I think we're both on these schedules that are just,
it's getting harder and harder.
It is.
It is worth my while to be able to find time to chat with you. I love it every time.
I always appreciate your time, and I always love our talks, and everything we talk about is good, fresh information for me because you fill the gap that I don't necessarily do on my show. I get people to a certain point, and then it's like, yeah, but I'm in this sucky job. Now what? But you take that baton and just help them with all the next steps. You actually do it from the ground up. So I would just like to recommend you. This is, I'm talking to Scott Barlow, Happen to Your Career. And I think we were going to send people to what? happentoyourcareer.com/brain.
Yeah, you and I talked a little bit beforehand and had mentioned that wanted to be able to give your audience something. I tried to do that at the last couple of times I've come on. And one of the core tenets of our company is to really try and be genuinely helpful to other people. So this is us trying to practice what we preach, but we've put together an ultimate guide to using your strengths to get hired. Translation, living much more unapologetically you throughout this whole career thing. And that's really what it does, is it helps you understand and think about this in a completely different way, and then put some tactical and actionable pieces to actually get started immediately doing that thing. So we've set that up over at happentoyourcareer.com/brain /brain.
Great.
So people can just go over there and download that ultimate guide and start using it to understand their strengths, first of all, and then take them through different ways to be able to use that in order to get hired in a job that does align, as we were talking about earlier.
Beautiful. And if they go to that site, how does that work? They get the guide and then they can like look at anything else that you're offering?
Yeah. And actually, there's a variety of ways that we help people, and a variety of ways that we introduce them into what we do, because we find that we're approaching this a different way than a lot of people are thinking about it. So we take it upon ourselves to really educate at the same time as we're trying to help people. And so they can go over, download the guide, and then from there, if they want to, they can attend a training or attend one of our mini classes, or they can, we'll send them some other resources too that help them go a little bit deeper into the process. And so we've got lots of different things. And then my team will check up on you too to make sure that you're getting what you want out of it. We've grown a bit since last time we've talked. We've got about 7 people on our team now.
Wow. Excellent.
Blows me away.
Excellent. Yeah. That just proves that you're helping more people. And I love to hear that. I love the fact that you're also giving away a lot of stuff. And also, there's no reason why you can't go to his site, happentoyourcareer.com/brain, and get that guide. But let me ask you one more question, Scott. And
absolutely,
who would be the best fit for this?
The very best fit, and we find the people that we can help the very best just really find fulfillment and go from where they're at to thriving in their lives, are those people that are the first thing is you've got to have some level of frustration with where you're at. If you're like, where I'm at, it's pretty good, it's okay, I don't really want anything different, then it's probably not for you. However, if you are really interested in aligning your career with what it is that you really want and really diving deeper into what it is you really want and having a very clear answer for that, and then being able to build a path towards that to where you are excited for when you wake up in the morning and what you get to do. And then that plays into the other areas of your life at the same time, so that you on a day-to-day feel much, much happier and are excited with how you're getting to spend your time on a much more regular basis, then it's probably a great fit for you. But we find that if you are just in college, and you're just in college, this will help you reframe some of the ways that you think about, but you're going to be very, very best if you've at least worked for a couple of years, and whether it's, fresh out of school in your first couple of jobs or all the way up to you've got, 20 plus years of experience, then those are the people that we find that we can help the best. Got it.
And like, let's just say that someone's satisfied in their career, but they want to know if there's might be something better out there for them. Is that what the guide can help, or any of your mini classes or things like that?
Absolutely. And particularly for that guide, even if you're in a job where you just want to enjoy that particular role more, then the first couple chapters in that guide will help you get very clear on what your strengths are and what you're particularly good at as you follow some of those processes in there. And then from there, you can start to align more of how you're spending your time with the things that are exciting you, whether it be taking on different projects or anything else. So even if that's your case versus wanting to completely career change, then that's still going to be helpful to you.
Great. So the guide is free. Go to happentoyourcareer.com/brain and definitely connect up with what Scott does over there. If you like what I teach on this show and you are also looking for something maybe a little bit more fulfilling in your career, maybe something that helps you just get motivated to jump out of bed. I mean, I think about that and I go, what would happen if I stopped getting motivated to do this? Am I going to call Scott? I'm thinking, hopefully I never have to call you, Scott. But there's a lot of people. I hear from a lot of people that, you know what, I'm in a career that I just don't like, or it's draining me. And I tell you what, if you're like me, that you put in 60, 70, 80% or more of each and every day, or at least many days a week, that is like 60, 70, 80% of your life. And if you're not enjoying what you do, then check out what Scott has. At least get the free guide, happentoyourcareer.com/brain. Scott, always a pleasure. You are the one person that helps me hone my interview skills, so thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to help you hone your interview skills. You are a fantastic interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
I know I've told you that before, but
no, I need to hear it.
Even better than last time.
Thank you. I need to hear that because I don't do an interview show.
I know. I'm so disappointed. All those go to waste a little bit. That's okay. You are very good at what you do. So even better than interviewing. So. That's that prioritization we were talking about earlier.
Oh,
right?
Well, thank you. I'll put that on my resume.
Thanks, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Have a good one, Scott. I appreciate it. All right, I'd like to thank Scott Barlow with Happen to Your Career. He's a nice guy. He's an honest guy. He's definitely in alignment with everything that I teach. And as you know, I rarely talk to anyone else on this show. So the people I bring on, I find are those of integrity. So I want you to check them out. Go to happentoyourcareer.com/brain and get your strengths guide, or go to happentoyourcareer.com/brain- that little minus sign webinar, and sign up for that webinar so that you aren't worried about your career or wondering about your career. You are happening to your career. I just threw that in because I knew Scott would like it. Thanks for joining me for another Minutes to Momentum. I appreciate you. You are amazing. We'll talk again soon.